Welcome to Discovering Spain, Wildlife, Culture, and Travel Insights. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sarah.
Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into Cádiz down in Andalusia, Spain.
Oh.
We've got some really interesting source material here.
Yeah, mostly focusing on an article called What's On in Cádiz from the Visiting Cádiz website, plus some other bits and pieces from the same project.
Right, and our goal really is to unpack all of that, figure out what makes Cádiz tick year-round, the events, the festivals, and maybe connect it to the wider province using everything we've got here.
Exactly. Think of it as getting the inside scoop on Cádiz city's vibe and how that fits into the bigger picture of the province, all based on this material.
Let's get into it. So the main article, it kicks off pretty strong, doesn't it?
It really does. It says Cádiz is a city that always has something happening. I like that phrase. It suggests constant energy.
Yeah, it sets the scene nicely. It's not just sometimes busy. And it quickly mentions the kind of things flamenco, beach concerts, local festivals. The source calls it an exciting mix of events throughout the year.
So it sounds like it avoids that, major off-season slump some places get.
Seems like it. So what are these things happening? The source breaks it down. First up, unsurprisingly, for Andalusia, flamenco.
Ah, yes. And the source really makes a point about its significance there. It says Cádiz is considered like one of the birthplaces.
Yeah, it mentions its important role in the development and evolution of flamenco. So it's not just putting on shows, It's got deep historical roots in the art form.
Definitely. And it talks about the different ways you can experience it, too. It's not just one thing.
Like what?
Well, you've got the really intimate tablaos, those small venues where you're right up close.
Right, almost part of the performance.
Exactly. But then it also mentions bigger festivals. So celebrating the whole package, the song, the dance, the guitar playing. It sounds like you can find the kind of experience that suits you.
Okay, so deep traditional roots with flamenco. What else is on the list? Live music generally.
Yeah, live concerts are mentioned as a kind of staple. And what's cool is where they happen. The source says often in scenic locations like the port, beaches, or historic squares.
Okay, that paints a picture. Listening to music with the sea breeze, or maybe in some old plaza, that adds a whole other layer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes it more than just a gig. It connects the music to the actual place. Local artists, international ones too, apparently.
Nice mix. Now, moving from sort of performance-based stuff to community events, the source talks about fairs and festivals.
And these sound really vibrant. Described as celebrating all sorts of themes, sometimes seafood, sometimes saints' days.
Okay.
And they involve parades, street markets, folk music, food, definitely food. It feels like this is where you'd really get a sense of the local culture.
The source actually names a couple of big ones like Semana Santa Holy Week and Carnival, which are huge deals in that part of Spain. It says you can find more detail on the site about those specifically.
Right, those are the major anchors, probably. But it's not all traditional. This source also mentions theater and contemporary arts.
Oh, interesting. So a modern side, too.
Yeah, it talks about theater shows, art exhibitions, workshops, showing there's a dynamic creative community there.
Okay.
It even names the Manuel de Falla Classical Music Festival and the Teatro Falla. So proper venues and events for, classical music and theater, too.
Good to know. It's got that range.
Yeah.
And what about families? Does the source mention anything for people visiting with kids?
It does, yeah. Specifically, it calls out family-friendly activities.
Right.
Things like storytelling, craft fairs, even outdoor cinema, often in parks or near the water. So it seems they do think about visitors of all ages.
That's good. So, okay, flamenco, concerts, big festivals, arts, family stuff. It's a pretty broad spectrum covered in the source material.
It really is. So the next logical question is, how do you actually find out what's on when you're planning a trip or when you get there? The source gives some practical tips.
Okay, essential info. What does it recommend?
Primarily, check the official Cádiz events calendar online. Makes sense, probably the most up-to-date.
Right, standard advice. Is there a catch?
There is kind of a big one. The source points out it's only available in Spanish.
Okay. That could be tricky for some visitors.
Definitely. But it does suggest using tools like Google Translate to, help browse the listings. So, possible, but needs a little extra effort.
Gotcha. And what about when you actually arrive in Cádiz?
The advice is pretty clear. Head to the tourist information offices.
Makes sense. Get the latest schedules, maybe some local tips.
Exactly. The source presents it as like a key first step once you've arrived and settled in a bit.
Settle in, find the tourist office.
Well, the source even jokes, maybe after you've had your first beer and tapas.
Now, that sounds like solid practical advice. I like it.
Me too.
Okay, so that gives us a really good handle on the event scene within Cadiz City based on that main article and the notes. But you mentioned the sources also look wider to the province.
They do, yeah. If we zoom out a bit, the source material describes the province of Cadiz as being renowned for its blend of natural beauty, historic landmarks, and culinary delights.
That's quite a description. Suggests a lot more variety beyond the city itself.
And it backs that up with a number. It says the province has 44 cities, towns, and villages. 44.
Wow, okay. That's a lot. And the source says, each with its own charm. That number really emphasizes the potential diversity within just one province.
For sure. And luckily, it doesn't just leave it at the number. It gives some concrete examples to illustrate this charm and variety.
Oh, good. Like what?
Well, there's Vescher de la Frontera, known for its whitewashed houses, that classic Andalusian look.
Yeah, the Pueblos Blancos.
Exactly. And it mentions the Atlantic views from there. So, hilltop town, coastal influence.
Okay, I can picture that. What else?
Then, totally different vibe, El Palmar Beach. The source highlights this specifically for surfers and beach lovers.
Right, so you've got the historic hill town, and then you've got the active beach scene, probably quite close by.
Then, heading inland a bit, it mentions Ubrique. This one's famous for leather making, like a long tradition of craftsmanship.
Leather? Interesting. A specific trade town.
Yeah, and the source places it within the Sierra de Grazalema Natural Park.
Ah, so it connects the craft to the landscape, too. Visiting there isn't just about the workshops, maybe.
Seems like it. Then there's Zahara de la Sierra, described as having a hilltop castle and views over a big reservoir.
Another stunning viewpoint, sounds like, but different from Vigera with the reservoir instead of the sea.
Right. And one more they mention is Sanlúcar de Barrameda. This one's flagged as a gastronomic hotspot.
Ooh, okay. What kind of food?
Known especially for its manzanilla sherry, that very dry local sherry and seafood. Plus, it's on the Guadalquivir River, so you get those river views, too.
Okay, wow. So just from those few examples in the source, Vigera, El Palmar, Ubrique, Zahara, Sanlúcar, you really get a sense of the range. Whitewashed villages, surf spots, craft towns in the mountains, castle views, riverside foodie places.
Exactly. It shows the province isn't just, the area around Cadiz City. It's a collection of really distinct places.
Which brings us back to the listener, doesn't it? How does knowing about all these events in the city and this diversity across the province actually help you? How does it change how you might think about visiting?
Well, it massively expands your options, I think. Instead of just hitting the main sites in the city, you could say, time your visit for Carnival, like the source mentions.
Right. Plan around a specific event.
Or seek out one of those intimate flamenco shows. Or maybe dedicate a couple of days to exploring. Go see the leather workshops in Ubrique. Or head to Sanlúcar for the sherry and seafood.
So it lets you tailor your trip much more. You could follow a specific interest: music, food, crafts, nature.
Exactly. It moves beyond a standard sightseeing checklist. The sources suggest you can tap into the living culture, the specific character of these different places, to have a maybe deeper or more personalized experience of the whole Cadiz region.
Right. You're not just observing, you're engaging with what makes each part unique based on what the sources highlight. Okay, so let's pull this together. We've used this What's On in Cadiz article and the other notes provided to get a feel for the city's really lively year-round events calendar. Flamenco, music, festivals, arts, the whole lot.
And we've also seen how the sources broaden the view, showcasing the variety across the province, those different towns and landscapes.
It gives you a snapshot, based on this material, of just how dynamic Cadiz is, both city and province, and the different ways you could connect with it.
Definitely paints a picture of a place with many layers to explore.
And just before we wrap up, it's worth mentioning the author credited in the notes for that main article, Clive Muir.
Ah, yes. And the notes also mention he's involved in some other projects that sound relevant if this area interests you.
What sort of things?
According to the notes we have, there's Ronda today, focusing on Ronda, another amazing Andalusian town. Info on the Caminito del Rey, that famous walkway.
Oh, yeah, the King's Pathway.
Right. Also, Wildside Holidays Spain, which sounds like it focuses on nature and walking holidays. There's an Iberia Nature Forum mentioned, maybe an online community.
Okay.
And even a voice map-powered audio tour, specifically for Cadiz City itself. So quite a few related resources seem to be out there, stemming from the same source creator.
Good to know there's more to explore if people want to dive even deeper. Which leads us to, I guess, our final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, something to chew on.
Given everything we've talked about, based on these sources, the huge festivals like Carnival, the intimate flamenco, the very distinct character of towns like Ubrique with its leather, or Sanlúcar with its sherry,
Yeah.
how different might your experience be?
You mean if you planned a trip specifically around one of those things, maybe time it for a particular festival or decided to really focus on exploring just one or two of those provincial towns in depth?
Exactly. How might that compare as an experience to a more, let's say, standard tour that mainly sticks to the highlights of Cadiz City? Could chasing one of those specific threads offer a different kind of immersion?
Something to think about, definitely. A different way to approach discovering Cadiz, perhaps.